Right then peeps, update on the CKC rig. We are finally starting to see hardware inside the case. And I've done a few little things that you may quite like. Now, just to zoom in the bottom, the radiators are in, and I've got two 90 degree, if I just move the camera to the side, sorry, two 45 degree connectors at the bottom, and then two 90 degree connectors at the top, and it's the top ones that they're going to link in together. The fans are both on push, so they pull from this side, as you can see, and push across the rads, and that was the best way I could get them in there running. I've also got the wires kind of wedged underneath, where there's so little room with the radiators. The wires are actually holding the rads just onto the top of the roof, so the wires are actually helping them hold them in place. So that's all working rather lovely. Now I'm just going to show you this quickly. The pump isn't fitted in place, but that's where it's going to be going, in the drive bay there. It'll actually be set up. I'm still not sure which way round I'm going to put the loop yet, but I will get there eventually. But the pump's going to be going in the drive bay nonetheless. I still want to kind of play around with the possibilities of the way I'm going to loop things at the moment. And it's not really until I start putting hose inside that I'll be able to work it out. But radiator is in the top. Fans are underneath the roof mesh, so technically the fans are outside. As you can see, there's two 90 degree fittings on the radiator. The one towards the outside of the case, so the one closest to us, will go into the straight barb on the MOSFET. But again, as yet, I don't know which way round I'm gonna loop it. I'm more than likely going to have the MOSFET barb there, the straight one, with the fluid coming out, so the coolant will be going from the graphics cards up through, and then the final stop will be that MOSFET point. But as you've probably seen, as I scan the video then, I've been doing some funky stuff with the Crossfire stroke SLI fittings, or yeah, the multiple graphics card fittings. Basically, if you have a look between those two cards there, I'll zoom you in, and all the light seems to be quite nice there. It looks really nice in my camera. I don't know how it's going to look in the actual video, but that's a Koolance 2 to 3 slot multiple graphics card fitting, and it's got like a sliding tube on it, so that you can basically extend it to the right point for your cards. It's brilliant. I love it. Looks really nice there. But when I first started using it, I thought to myself, well, I might be able to use that to help keep the CPU blocks tidy, because the problem I was going to have was either really short bits of tube on the hose going between the like the chipset block to the CPU and then up to the MOSFET block. It would have been an absolute nightmare to have got the hose done, or I'd have to, if it was like 90 degree fittings as they are there, or I would have had big curls coming out the loops like we always used to with the older rigs, so that you have like a big loop of hose going from one block into the next block. But basically I thought, well, I could use those SLI connectors, or Crossfire connectors, and multiple graphics card connectors, whatever you want to call them. So the one at the bottom is a 2 to 3 slot connector, which is basically squeezed almost right in. If I show you down the bottom, that little gap there, that's all the extension that I've had to use for that. So it's almost, you know, the perfect length. The one above, however, that is actually a single slot one, and that's extended as far as it can go, because the 2 to 3 slot one is too big, and the single slot one, like I said, it's literally on its limits there. When I leak test, I'm really going to have to watch that fitting, because I've obviously never used these before, and I don't know quite how much you can extend them, but it's on the line essentially for how far you can pull them out. So fingers crossed we should be alright. But I did that because it kind of mixes up the look of the system and also keeps it really tidy. Now, the graphics card block, doorbell, courier, won't be a second. Apologies for that, guys. It actually wasn't a courier, it was the coffee man. So beware, nom nom nom. Right, as I was saying, although I really do want to drink my coffee, if we have a look at the end of the chipset block, you can see there's a straight barb. I will stop moving it, I promise. You can see there's a straight barb there. And then there's a 90-degree barb just to the left. So basically the 90-degree comes out, and that's a near enough straight line for me to go straight into the chipset block with. The gap is too big for me to be able to use another one of the SLI fittings, and it's not quite straight either, so I don't think it would gel nicely. But we need a little bit of hose every now and then. And also, if you think about it, if we have a look, you've got the two SLI connectors to the right, and then you'll have the two bits of hose to the left, so it'll actually keep things quite balanced. Overall, we've got the, as I said, 360 in the roof, pump in the front, res in the front. I'm probably going to send the loop down first, so it will go reservoir, pump, and then go down to the bottom of the system to go to those radiators first. Through one radiator, through the other radiator, and technically the warmer of the two coolants will be at the back, which will go out first, and then the pre-cooled coolant will go into the second radiator, which will be getting cooled second, so that you won't get so much warm air going over the back. Complicated, but although really, to be perfectly honest with you, there really isn't going to be that much of a difference there. But just for those of you that are going to be getting finicky about it, it won't really get affected that much. And then we'll go from the radiator up to the first graphics card. Up to the first graphics card. Obviously then that goes straight into the second graphics card, which then goes into the chipset block, which then goes into the CPU, and then back out to the MOSFET block. Now, the CPU will probably be the warmest part of the loop, but that's not because it's the last thing being cooled, because as it's a closed system, it really doesn't make a lot of difference what order you have it. You also don't need to do block, radiator, block, radiator, block, radiator. It doesn't make a difference because it's an enclosed system, basically. By putting radiators in between each of the blocks, you may get a maximum of about 2 to 3 degrees difference. And water cooling, when you're spending this much money, it's really about aesthetics. Or it is for me. I prefer my stuff to be a couple of degrees warmer and look the part. I really don't like my systems looking like Mario and Luigi have had a spaghetti fight inside. It's just utterly pointless. Which is another reason why I've done a single loop for this and not gone dual loop, because I technically could have put the graphics cards on the bottom radiators and then the CPU on the top radiator if I wanted, but it just would have looked horrific, and it would have looked so busy in there. I just want it to look quiet and tidy. Power supply wise, I'm more than likely going to use an AX850 Corsair, although a 750 would be fine. I'm probably going to be bringing out the Corsair 480 gigabyte solid state drives that I've got and RAID zeroing those just because they're red. I've also got some red Corsair Vengeance 2133 memory that I'm going to slam in there as well. Coolant colour, I know people keep asking me, but I'm still pretty much adamant I'm just going to use clear hose and clear coolant and no dye or anything in there at all, just to keep things a little bit subtle. I think the only thing I may push the boat out and stretch to is the possibility of having some white LEDs in here somewhere, just to kind of light it up a bit. But let's face it, once the door goes on, you're not going to see it, and that light will quite literally just be for when I take photos of it. So it's not really, massively needed with this case. But it would be good to know your thoughts. My task for today, once I've got a few bits tied up, is to start looking at hosing for this. There's not really a lot to do, but it's really I want to try and get this tidy, and I want to try and get it really looking the part. I'm also going to need to start putting some cables in there as well, so that I can make sure all the cables are tidy, and then I'll hose around all the cables. But yes, let me know what you think. Next week we should see this complete. I really want to try and get this complete so I can take it up to, because I go up to the local college and work with one of the classes up there once a week, doing a hardware unit with them. And I actually really want to try and take this up there this week. If it falls into the week after, I'm sure they're not going to moan because I've not exactly said anything to them. But yeah, that's the reason why I'm pushing real hard to get this done. But I want to get it done by the end of the month anyway. So don't forget, all of the parts All of the water cooling parts used in this build are available from Specialtech. And something I will say is a lot of people keep saying to me, why do I keep using Rampages? Well, that's the same Rampage I used before. And I just kind of like cycle the parts round. Basically, the reason why we use the Rampage is Koolance had the Rampage water block available, so it all just kind of ties in. And what you need to realise as well is people say, why don't you use this, why don't you use that, why don't you use this, and it's different brands. The reason why we're doing this is to use Koolance products, you numpties. So yes, that's why we've got Koolance radiators, Koolance water blocks, Koolance fittings. We didn't use Koolance fans because I decided to use side fans, and then we've got a Coolermaster case and Asus parts. And then the other brand that we're using is obviously Corsair power supply, memory solid state drives. So it all kind of ties in. You need to remember this is a business, not a hobby, and I've not gone out and bought this stuff. It's stuff that I've either had here or had to ask for. So I know the people that have been moaning just don't understand the way things work, and the majority of you do. But anyway, please let me know what you think. And like I said, I'm going to push on, and hopefully I'll have a video for you with this all hosed up and almost ready to go over the weekend, I would have hoped. But for now, at least, I've got a coffee going cold that I seriously need to drink today. So this is Tiny Tom Logan, hidden behind the camera with another video for you. Out.